bright city lights of Los Angeles twinkled like stars as Keanu Reeves stepped out of his black Cadillac, waving politely at the paparazzi who had been eagerly waiting outside the TV studio. He was about to appear on one of the country's top-rated late-night talk shows, The Midnight Hour with Vanessa Cross. Despite his decades-long career, Keanu had always remained humble. His fans adored him for his kindness, wisdom, and almost monk-like patience in an industry filled with egos. He wasn't one for drama, but tonight he had a strange feeling in his gut. Something about this interview felt off. Inside the studio, the audience buzzed with excitement. Vanessa Cross, the show's host, was known for her sharp wit and unfiltered interviews. She was loved and feared in equal measure, famous for her no-holds-barred approach, often pushing celebrities to their limits. Her interviews went viral not for meaningful conversations, but for the controversy they stirred. Keanu, however, wasn't someone who easily got rattled. As the commercial break ended, the cameras rolled, and the show's signature jingle played. Vanessa, dressed in an expensive red pantsuit, flashed a dazzling but insincere smile. She turned toward the camera. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We have a very special guest tonight. You know him, you love him. Hollywood's favorite mystery man. The one and only Keanu Reeves." The audience erupted in applause as Keanu walked onto the stage, dressed simply in a dark blazer, black jeans, and his signature long hair draping over his shoulders. He waved at the crowd, then shook Vanessa's hand before sitting down on the plush interview couch. Vanessa leaned forward, smirking. "Keanu, Keanu, Keanu. Wow, you look exactly the same as you did 20 years ago. What's the secret? Is it black magic? A deal with the devil? Or just Hollywood's best plastic surgeons?" The audience chuckled uncomfortably. Keanu, ever composed, smiled politely. "Thank you, Vanessa. I think it's just good genetics and, staying away from negativity." Vanessa cocked an eyebrow. "Oh, well, I hope you can handle a little negativity tonight, because I have some questions that your fans might not like." The audience gasped. The tension in the room thickened. Keanu, however, simply nodded. "Go ahead." Vanessa picked up a cue card and grinned. "All right then, let's start easy. People call you the nicest guy in Hollywood, but isn't that just good PR? I mean, no one is that nice all the time. There has to be a darker side to Keanu Reeves. Maybe a few skeletons in the closet." Keanu chuckled softly, shaking his head. "I don't know about that. I just try to be decent, It's not about PR. It's about treating people with kindness." Vanessa rolled her eyes dramatically. "Oh, come on. That's such a diplomatic answer. Give us something real, Keanu. When was the last time you lost your temper? Yelled at someone? Come on. Don't tell me you've never cussed someone out." Keanu hesitated for a moment, as if searching for an answer. "I suppose I just don't see the point in anger. It doesn't help anyone." Vanessa sighed and tossed her cue card aside. "All right, fine. Let's get juicier." She smirked and leaned forward. "You're 60 now and you're dating a woman who's, 51? Why not someone younger? I mean, don't most Hollywood men go for 20-something models?" The audience gasped, some even booing. The comment was blatantly rude. Keanu's girlfriend, Alexandra Grant, was a respected artist and author, and their relationship was one of mutual respect and love. Keanu's expression remained unreadable. He stared at Vanessa for a moment before responding, his voice calm yet firm. "Vanessa, love isn't about age. It's about connection, about understanding. I'm grateful for the love I have in my life." Vanessa scoffed. "Grateful? Man, you're like a walking inspirational poster." She laughed mockingly, looking at the audience for approval. But the crowd wasn't laughing. The mood in the room had shifted, and Keanu's eyes darkened just slightly. For the first time, something in him stirred, something the world wasn't ready for. The energy in the studio had changed. The audience, once eager for light-hearted fun, now shifted in their seats, uneasy. Vanessa Cross might have been known for her controversial takes, but tonight, she was skating on thin ice. Keanu Reeves, a man who rarely let negativity affect him, had remained calm so far. But there was something in his eyes now, a flicker of something unspoken. Not anger, not irritation, something deeper. Vanessa, oblivious to the shift, pressed on, smirking as if she had won some kind of battle. All right, Keanu, let's move on. I want to talk about your career. You've played some legendary roles, Neo, John Wick, Ted from Bill and Ted, but let's be real. People don't hire you for your range, do they? You just kind of play yourself in every role. The audience gasped again. A few boos even echoed from the back. This was outright disrespectful. Keanu tilted his head slightly, the corner of his lips curling into a small, knowing smile. That's an interesting take. Vanessa, sensing she had struck a nerve, grinned wider. Come on, Keanu. Be honest. You're Hollywood's nice guy, sure, but when's the last time you actually acted? It's always the same brooding look, the same monotone voice, the same sad assassin energy. Keanu took a deep breath, his hands still resting lightly on his lap. He wasn't rattled, but the audience could feel something shifting. Vanessa, acting isn't about proving something to critics. It's about telling a story, connecting with people. I'm grateful for the roles I've played because they've meant something to people. His words were calm, measured. But Vanessa wasn't done. Oh, please. You're telling me John Wick is about deep human connection. It's just you running around killing people over a dog. A loud chorus of boos erupted. This time, it wasn't just mild disapproval. The audience was turning on her. Keanu finally leaned forward. His voice remained soft, but there was an unmistakable edge to it. It wasn't just about a dog, Vanessa. The way he said it sent chills down the room. Even Vanessa blinked, momentarily thrown off. Keanu's presence had shifted, not in a threatening way, but in a way that made the whole studio listen. Keanu continued, his voice steady. John Wick wasn't about revenge. It was about grief, loss. It was about a man losing everything, and the last thing tethering him to his wife, his love, was taken from him. It resonated with people because loss is something we all understand. If you reduce it to just a dog, maybe you've never truly loved something. The audience exploded in applause. Even some of Vanessa's own crew members clapped. Vanessa, for the first time, looked slightly rattled. She had underestimated him, but she wasn't ready to give up. All right, let's not get all philosophical over an action movie. She forced a laugh, trying to regain control. I guess people just love watching you kill bad guys. Maybe it's because you're such a sad, lonely guy in real life. Silence. The audience froze. That comment had crossed a line. Keanu's life had been filled with deep personal tragedy. Losing his best friend, River Phoenix, at a young age. Losing his daughter, Ava, and later her mother, Jennifer Syme. He had endured more pain than most people could comprehend. And now, Vanessa had just turned that pain into a punchline. Keanu took a deep breath. His fingers curled slightly, then relaxed. He slowly looked up, locking eyes with Vanessa. The entire room held its breath. Something was about to happen. Something no one expected. The studio was silent. The air felt heavy, thick with anticipation. Vanessa Cross had just made the biggest mistake of her career, turning Keanu Reeves' personal tragedy into a joke. The audience's expressions shifted from discomfort to disbelief. Even Vanessa's own crew exchanged nervous glances. No one spoke. No one moved. And then, Keanu leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, his dark eyes steady, focused. There was no anger in his face, no visible frustration. Instead, there was something else, something that made Vanessa squirm in her seat. You think loneliness is funny, Vanessa? His voice was quiet, but it cut through the room like a knife. Vanessa's smirk wavered. She hadn't expected a response like this. She had expected an awkward laugh, maybe a diplomatic brush-off. But Keanu wasn't playing along. I've lost people I loved. His voice was calm, steady. I've held grief in my hands. I've woken up in a world that felt empty, where the people who meant the most to me were gone. The room was dead silent. The cameras rolled, capturing every word, every subtle shift in expression. Keanu took a slow breath, then continued. But I've also learned that loneliness isn't the same as being alone. And being alone isn't a curse. It's a teacher. A few members of the audience murmured in agreement. Keanu's gaze didn't waver. I don't mind being alone, Vanessa. I don't fear it. And I certainly don't need to fill my life with noise just to avoid sitting with myself. Vanessa swallowed. The power dynamic had shifted entirely. Keanu wasn't raising his voice. He wasn't attacking. He wasn't playing into her game. But his words carried more weight than any insult ever could. The audience felt it. Vanessa, for the first time in her career, didn't know how to respond. She laughed awkwardly, shifting in her chair. Wow, okay. That was deep. She forced a smirk, trying to regain control. I mean, it's just a talk show, Keanu. No need to get all a. Keanu raised a hand slightly, cutting her off, not rudely but firmly. You brought it up. The crowd erupted in applause. Vanessa blinked, caught off guard. Her show was built on tearing people down, making them uncomfortable, twisting their words. But Keanu Reeves was untouchable. He hadn't lost his temper. He hadn't fought back with insults. He had simply spoken the truth. And the audience respected him for it. For the first time in her career, Vanessa Cross felt small. And she hated it. But Keanu wasn't done yet. He leaned back, his expression softening just slightly. Vanessa, I don't think you're a bad person. The host's eyebrows shot up in surprise. I think you're playing a role. One that gets ratings. One that makes people watch. But I wonder, he tilted his head. When the cameras are off, do you like who you are? The audience gasped. A few people even clapped. Vanessa's face turned red. Well, that's not really the point of. Keanu nodded as if he understood. Then he gave a small, knowing smile. Okay. And that single word, okay, felt like the heaviest moment of the entire night. The audience knew what he meant. Vanessa knew what he meant. He didn't need to say anything more. Because, in just a few words, Keanu Reeves had done what no one else had ever managed to do. He had turned the mirror back on her. And the whole world was watching. The tension in the studio was suffocating. Vanessa Cross, the queen of late-night controversy, sat frozen in her chair. Her usual smug confidence had evaporated. The cameras were still rolling, but for the first time in her career, she had nothing to say. Keanu Reeves, Hollywood's most unshakable man, had just dismantled her, not with anger, not with insults, but with truth. The audience sat in stunned silence, but then, slowly, the applause began. At first, it was scattered, hesitant. Then it grew, rolling across the studio in waves, turning into a standing ovation. Keanu, ever humble, gave a small nod to the crowd but remained seated. He wasn't here for applause. He hadn't come to win a debate or prove a point. He had simply spoken from the heart. Vanessa, flustered, fumbled for her cue cards, trying to regain control. Well, okay. That was certainly a deep conversation. But let's lighten the mood, shall we? Keanu, tell us about your new movie, but the damage was already done. People weren't thinking about the movie anymore. They were thinking about her. And how, for the first time, Vanessa Cross had been exposed. She tried to move on, but the audience wasn't laughing at her forced jokes. The energy had shifted, and she felt it in every awkward pause, every uncertain glance from her crew. The show wrapped up quickly after that. As soon as the cameras stopped rolling, Vanessa let out a deep breath, turning toward Keanu. Listen, that got a little intense, she said, forcing a smile. But you know, it's just a show. No hard feelings, right? Keanu studied her for a moment. Then he stood up, buttoned his blazer, and offered a polite but distant nod. Take care, Vanessa. And with that, he walked off the stage. Not another word. Not another glance. Vanessa sat there, stunned as the realization hit her. She had lost. Not just the argument. Not just control of the interview. She had lost public trust. And she knew it. By the time Keanu had stepped outside the studio, his phone was already buzzing. Not that he would check it, he wasn't one for social media. But the world was already talking. Clips of the interview were flooding Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Keanu Reeves began trending immediately, followed closely by Vanessa Cross canceled. People weren't just siding with Keanu, they were outraged at Vanessa. She really tried to humiliate Keanu Reeves and got destroyed by kindness. Film fanatic 27 Keanu didn't even raise his voice. He just held up a mirror, and she crumbled. Absolute masterclass. Culture critic, that moment when he asked her, "Do you like who you are?" Phew, sent shivers down my spine. Keanu forever celebrities started weighing in. Ryan Reynolds tweeted, Keanu Reeves once gave me his last slice of pizza. Vanessa Cross tried to take a bite out of his soul. Bad idea. Sandra Bullock posted on Instagram, class, grace, wisdom. That's Keanu. Some people could learn a thing or two. Even former guests of the Midnight Hour started speaking up. Actor Chris Pratt retweeted the interview, adding, "So glad someone finally called her out. Hollywood's been tolerating her nonsense for too long. It was clear. Vanessa Cross had just made a career-ending mistake. And Keanu? He had done what he always did, handled it with grace. But the world wasn't done yet. Something bigger was coming. Something no one saw coming.
The fallout from the interview was immediate and brutal. By the next morning, every major news outlet was covering the story. Headlines ranged from Vanessa Cross humiliated on live TV to Keanu Reeves, the kindness assassin. Social media was relentless. Petitions started circulating, calling for Vanessa to be removed from the midnight hour. Sponsors began pulling their ads. Within 48 hours, the network released a statement: "We take our audience's concerns seriously. While we support open dialogue, we also believe in mutual respect. The network is conducting an internal review." Everyone knew what that meant. Vanessa Cross was done. But what happened next shocked the world even more.
The fallout from the interview was immediate and brutal. By the next morning, every major news outlet was covering the story. Headlines ranged from Vanessa Cross humiliated on live TV to Keanu Reeves, the kindness assassin. Social media was relentless. Petitions started circulating, calling for Vanessa to be removed from the midnight hour. Sponsors began pulling their ads. Within 48 hours, the network released a statement: "We take our audience's concerns seriously. While we support open dialogue, we also believe in mutual respect. The network is conducting an internal review." Everyone knew what that meant. Vanessa Cross was done. But what happened next shocked the world even more. Amid the chaos, Keanu remained silent. No tweets, no statements, no interviews. He simply continued his life as usual, attending charity events, spending time with friends, riding the subway like any other New Yorker. Then, 5 days later, he finally spoke. In a rare sit-down interview with a respected journalist, he was asked directly about the Vanessa Cross controversy. "Keanu, the world has been talking about that interview nonstop. You could have handled it in so many ways, but you chose kindness. Why?" Keanu smiled softly as if the question surprised him. "Because everyone deserves kindness," he said simply. "Even the people who don't show it." The journalist leaned in. "Vanessa has lost her job. People are calling for her to be blacklisted from television. What do you think?" Keanu exhaled, thoughtful. "I don't think ruining someone's life is the answer." The interviewer raised an eyebrow. "So, you're saying people should forgive her?" Keanu chuckled. "That's not for me to say. But I will say this: holding on to anger only makes the world heavier." Meanwhile, Vanessa Cross had disappeared. No tweets. No Instagram posts. No statements. Then, 2 weeks later, she resurfaced with an apology video. Sitting in a dimly lit room. No makeup. No flashy set. She looked visibly shaken. "I messed up," she began, her voice uncharacteristically soft. "I let my ego, my career, and my need for ratings push me into a place of cruelty. And Keanu Reeves, he didn't deserve that." She sighed, rubbing her hands together. "The truth is, I haven't liked myself for a long time. And when Keanu asked me that question, 'Do you like who you are?' it hit me harder than anything else. Because the answer was no." She paused, swallowing hard. "I'm stepping away from television for now. I need to figure out who I am outside of controversy, outside of ratings. But I do want to say this, Keanu, if you ever see this, thank you." The video ended. For the first time, the internet didn't tear her apart. People weren't quick to forgive her, but they respected that she wasn't making excuses. And Keanu? When asked about the apology, he simply smiled and said, "I hope she finds peace." The interview went down in history as one of the most unexpected, powerful moments in television. Keanu Reeves hadn't just shut down a toxic interviewer, he had changed the conversation. His calm, his wisdom, his refusal to fight negativity with more negativity, it reminded the world that true strength isn't loud. It's quiet. It's steady. And sometimes it's just a single, well-placed question: "Do you like who you are?" And for Vanessa Cross, for millions watching, it was a question that changed everything.